are there cases in which a possession is not obvious?
Yes,
I would imagine there are many where the spirit has simply won and is in firm control. I would think that...
Okay, now this is the probably the most important part I want to get into. It's called the perfect possession. And there's a lot of people that are under this and they're okay with it. A lot of, some of these people's kids had no choice or understood the arrangement and are okay with it. Okay, this goes to a lot of your celebs, a lot of your politicians, your athletes, your bankers, your doctors, in any industry where there's an elite class. And there's a lot of people that are okay with it. Matter of fact, the first person that came to mind was Anderson Cooper, right? He had lost a brother as a toddler, and there was a picture of Anderson Cooper, very, very young. Man, I did a video on that shit years ago, and I hate that I scrubbed my channel the way that I did. Anderson Cooper, he was in a particular room. He was in a particular room, and then there's this piece hanging over the wall. This is it here, right? Yes, this here. I wish I could blow it up. Well, let me see if it let me see if it'll blow. Let me blow it up. Okay, hold on. Nope. No, you're not gonna let me blow it up. There we go. Okay. Hold on. You see this shit over his bedroom? This was in his bedroom as a kid. You see this? This was in his bedroom as a kid. So there are plenty of families that have made the movie Hereditary, where entire bloodlines belong to a particular demon, and they've made pacts. The grandparents made pacts. The great grandparents made pacts. Usually the firstborn son of every generation, whatever the case may be. Perfect possession. All right. I remember, and I was just like, who the hell would? And I believe his younger brother fell out of a window or some shit. So Anderson Cooper has been under some heavy psychosis, some heavy trauma as a kid. Okay. I would think he's under perfect possession. Okay. So not to get bogged down, let's get back to it. I'll let Father Malachi break it down. Right. Let's continue. Perfect possession.
The people who come to you are those who are sort of in the middle of a giant battle.
That's right. When you find somebody, the typical things of somebody throwing themselves on the ground and cursing and spitting and protesting and defecating, urinating and all sorts of protest. What they're doing is protesting, saying, help me.
Yes.
Help me. The perfectly possessed, we call them, the perfectly possessed, are those that are completely at peace. And I've known several of the perfectly possessed, and I avoid them like the pest. And you know them only by almost accidental means. Sometimes they're perfectly normal, by the way, and they've got great business property. They're married, they have children and wives, and they put down responsible jobs. There's nothing.
Pay attention. The perfectly possessed. These are the people that are okay with the pacts they made with whatever demon their family signed up with. Okay.
Nothing wrong there. Now and again, just now and again, it, as it were, a veil is drawn aside, and you see somebody you don't know at all. You just don't know this person, this man, this woman. And there's a completely alien look, a completely alien attitude, and they breathe alienation. And you know then, if you have a nose for it, you know then that they're perfectly possessed and there's nothing to be done about it. The first man I knew like that was called Beedham, John Beedham. And it was a frightening experience because I had known him for years.
In other words, their pact, their deal, they are at peace with and comfortable with their deal.
Right. That's right, and they have passed through.
I would surmise that Jay-Z is perfectly possessed. Him and Beyonce, them kids, it's a wrap for those kids. Everybody's cool with the pact that Jay made with whatever demon he serves. And when I see people in these comments, I would never. How could they do it? Like, just shut up. But okay, let's continue.
The usual Satanist rituals too. The three Satanist rituals: the power of inflicting pain, the power of hating, and the power of burning fire. Fire is part of the Satanist and the Luciferian development. and they passed through all those with flying colors.
Doctor, I want to circle back for a second.
Sure.
You scared me quite well. You said, and this was going to be a major question for you this morning.
Yes.
I talked to you about the quickening.
Yes.
I didn't even get to all the facets. To
Yes.
me, it's many, many things. But you said there was a huge increase
Yes.
in the number of possessions, and I was going to ask you that. To me, that just adds to the pile. That is true. There's more now.
It's about, since 1975, when I really started known as exorcisms in the United States, it's about 800% increase.
Okay, these are all your schizophrenics, your bipolars, some of your autistic people. What has increased, damn near tenfold, right? Mental health awareness, mental health illness diagnoses have gone through the roof in the last few decades. Yes? Okay, let's continue. Let's continue.
In frequency.
Oh,
in
my.
frequency. And it's extraordinary. It's extraordinary. And the one part of the phenomenon is this, Art, that now, for the first time, exorcists and psychiatrists are working closely together. And I work with psychiatrists. I do the spiritual side of it, and they do the psychiatric end of it. There's always a psychiatric preparation and follow-up on after an exorcism.
You mentioned that one psychiatrist simply gave up psychiatry.
That's right. I gave him a code name of Hammond. That's not his real name, but he was very, very skeptical about it all. And finally I said, okay, Doctor, look, if you insist, but you must have some protection. He wasn't a Catholic, by the way, but he was a very honest, sincere man. I didn't mean but. He was. And once he went through it, that was it. He would never touch another possessed person. He would never touch psychiatry ever again. He went off and did something else. He was a qualified doctor and became an ordinary MD. And confined himself to that.
Doctor, how frequently do you think psychiatrists who are treating patients, or what percentage of their patients might indeed, instead of suffering psychiatric problems, be suffering some form of possession?
Well over 50% of the cases I have observed.
Wow.
Well over 50% are really possessed by demons, and of course nothing can be done about it. They're diagnosed as schizophrenic, or as MDDs, or as whatever.
That's multiple personality disorders, dissociative identity disorder, that's DID. Yeah. And it's not to minimize or wash away the mental health aspect of it, but I'm assuming it makes it sound better and safer to say this person has this particular disorder, because calling everybody demon possessed, but then there's cases when people go off the rails and murder a whole bunch of people, and they say, hey man, I had no control over my body. I was hearing voices, right? And there was one particular case where the black man, this happened not even a couple years ago, right? Black man, he murdered somebody, murdered people, said he was hearing voices, right? And I asked the question, what do you do to somebody that's been possessed and kill somebody not under their control? Do you punish the person that was possessed? Because it wasn't them, it was a demon per se, right? Is this him? Here we go. This is one of them. This happened last month. Gregory Da Silva arrested after a stabbing spree. After being taken into custody and evaluated at a hospital, Da Silva reportedly told a doctor that evil voices had instructed him to commit the murders. Randy Santos. During his trial on January 26, his defense attorneys argued an insanity plea, stated that he suffered from severe schizophrenia as he was hearing voices that told him he had to kill 40 people. The trial proceeded with his attorneys arguing that mental illness left him without criminal responsibility. Exactly. That is a perfect question. What do you do with somebody that has committed atrocious acts not under their control? They were possessed by whatever entity, spirit, force, right? What do you do? Right? Is it fair to the victims to say, well, it wasn't their fault. They were under demon possession, demonic forces, and the demons made them do it. And nobody's family's wants to hear that shit. Even though everybody claims to be religious and you believe in God and evil and God and devil, you believe in demons and angels, but not when it comes to your family being a victim of said demon, right? Okay, let's continue.
and there's no succor for them. There is no succor or help for them at all.
When you have done your job, and when we come back from the top of the hour, we'll talk about what an actual exorcism is like. I guess I want to know. But when you have done your job,
Yes.
and it's all over, and the demon leaves,
Yes.
where does that demon go?
Well, let me gently but firmly sort of put in a corrective there, Art, from the point of view of an expert. The demon has been deprived of a place, a location, a human person, in which to exercise power. Therefore, they're confined to where they originally were, which is hell. They go back merely to suffering, because their suffering is intense and perpetual and non-stop. They have had a chance of exercising power outside of their tortures, and indeed, the evil they inflict is a way of their getting their own back in some way or other, even though it doesn't relieve their pain.
So they are punished for their failure.
That's right. They're punished. And that's why in the Gospel, for instance, you have the evil spirit saying to Jesus, no.
Man, listen, he breaks this shit down. He breaks this down to a science.
Exercise power. Therefore, they're confined to where they originally were, which is hell. They go back merely to suffering, because their suffering is intense and perpetual and non-stop. They have had a chance of exercising power outside of their tortures, and indeed, the evil they inflict is a way of their getting their own back in some way or other, even though it doesn't relieve their pain.
So they are punished for their failure.
That's right. They're punished. And that's why in the Gospel, for instance, you have the evil spirit saying to Jesus, no, don't send us back to hell. Send us into these pigs. Remember the swine of Gerasene?
Yes.
And they rushed over the precipice into the water and drowned themselves. They could possess something. There's a sort of relief, a temporary relief in not being condemned purely and simply to suffer in hell. And therefore they want something to inhabit. And Christ himself said that, and St. Paul says, and St. Peter, and a lot of things in the New Testament say that the devil goes around seeking whom he may devour, like a lion, whom he may possess. And I must tell you that the enormous increase, about 800% over what it used to be in our small area, because it's only a small area we do, the northeast corner.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a huge increase. And here's one more thing to say, Art, which may sort of...
Isn't this what the first thing y'all say when y'all see the parents off the kids? First thing y'all be like, it's a spiritual war. Okay, so why do you not extend that grace to other people that are actually victims of a spiritual war? Where is this black couple that poured acid and lye on this baby's body to get rid of the body? Black couple poured. Once again, people claim or say spiritual warfare because it sounds nice. Yeah, did y'all see this? Did y'all see this story? Where is it at? Nope, this is it. This has to be it. It was a black couple. A black couple did this to their own child. Right? Once again, when you run around here talking about spiritual warfare, okay, it sounds nice, but do you really believe in that? So be mindful when you throw around that spiritual warfare. Okay, it sounds nice when you say it, but for those that are real victims of this shit, or, you know, it's trendy to say it's spiritual warfare, right?
A massive search for 4-year-old Javea Harris.
She was outside playing, and I came out here after cooking dinner a little bit, and I'm looking for her, but I don't see her nowhere.
But tonight, arrest warrants say that story was false.
She had on pink Minnie Mouse pajamas, and she had in pink beads. She had braids.
Investigators say Javea had been dead for weeks before her mother ever called 911.
Wow.
The warrants say both parents confessed and showed Javea was injured through physical abuse.
Seeing that pretty little girl's face, she didn't deserve that.
Tonight, the 911 call, the warrants, and the Aiken County community grieving the little girl they all prayed for.
As a parent and as somebody who has served in this community as a first responder, it is absolutely heartbreaking.
Well, News 12 at 11 o'clock starts right now. Good evening. I'm Will Rio. What you just heard was a 911 call from Javea's mother, 22-year-old Michelle Herring. She told dispatchers 4-year-old Javea disappeared from their home on Hillsborough Street Tuesday night, but investigators say that was not true. Herring and Javea's father, 23-year-old Jamarie Harris, are charged with homicide by child abuse, and Herring is also charged with filing a false police report. And new tonight, arrest warrants say Herring caused severe head injuries to Javea through physical abuse and then disposed of her body at another location, which we'll get to very shortly. The documents also allege Harris knew about the injuries but did not seek medical attention. Now, investigators say this all happened between May 1st and June 15th of this year, about a month after Herring filed a false police report claiming Javea went missing.
The point I'm making is, us growing up, it was so rare to hear that parents harmed their children. It was so rare to hear that children were harming their parents. Okay? And those are like, what? It was so rare you didn't even hear about it. In the last year, how many stories have you heard or witnessed, read? The parents took out the child took out the parents, right? The boy that just shot his mama over a goddamn game controller. You understand? Now it's like it's no big deal. Now it's like, well, now it's the new norm. Okay? So would you not label this spiritual warfare? Not because it sounds trendy, but this is literally what it is. You wouldn't categorize this as like total demon possession? Not to minimize the parents' doings, but this clearly is what this is. Who pours acid after you? So you beat your child to death, and you pour acid on the body to dissolve the body. But okay, I get it. Humans are wicked beings, but that's next level. But come on.
Let's take another listen to that 911 call.
Just to confirm, where was she in the house when you saw her last?
No, she wasn't in the house, ma'am. She been playing outside today. And
Okay.
She asked me, can she play for a little bit more before it got dark, and I said yes. And I literally, her bath water is in the tub, ran, and dinner is cooking, and I came out here to get her, and I can't even find her.
Okay, is there a certain place she likes to play outside?
Usually in the chicken coop, and that's usually where I find her every day. And I just looked in here, and she's not in here.
Okay. Is there any bodies of water nearby?
I don't know, ma'am. Me and my husband just now present in this house. I don't know about this area much, but it's not a good area. I'll tell you that.
Now, here's where law enforcement are searching for Javea's body now after Herring admitted to disposing of it at another location. We're showing you a Google Earth view of the Debutary Creek access area, which leads into Rocky Creek Lake on the Catawba River. It's in a rural part of South Carolina near the Fairfield and Chester County lines, nearly 2 hours away. Your Meredith Anderson was out there all day today. She joins us now with the latest on the search for Javea's body.
The road to closure in the Javea Harris case extends far beyond Augusta. It looks as though that road leads right here to rural South Carolina. I'm standing here in Fairfield County, just a stone's throw from Chester County, South Carolina. This is the Debutary Creek access road. It leads to a body of water that leads to bigger bodies of water. And this is where the search is really concentrated for the body of that 4-year-old girl.
Listen, we can do stories like this all day and never run out of content. That's how prevalent it is when it comes to parent versus child violence. We won't run out of content, and it's never been like this before. Not when we were growing up as kids or even teenagers or even as an early adult. It was still rare to hear about a parent offing a kid, or, the grown-ass kids offing the parents. Like, that was like, okay, everyone, Blue Moon, it was an inheritance over $200 million, and the kids colluded to, every blue moon you got a Eric Melendez, the Melendez brothers. Like, that was every blue moon. But now it's in the last 5, 6, not even 3 years. Every week there's a story of parents versus children. Right? Let's continue.
So very sad, because unlike the previous times we've been reporting last week when we were telling you about the search efforts, there was search for hope that she would be found alive. Instead, this is a much different type of search. It is the search for her body. It is the search for her remains. All day long, there have been law enforcement officers coming and going, one of them coming now. No one gets through this area unless they are law enforcement officers, unless they are connected to the investigation. It was that way Saturday. It was that way today. We have been around to different areas trying to get access to the water, not particularly where they're searching, but just to get an idea, a feel of this area, a feel of this terrain. We're not from here. We came up here to give you information and to monitor the situation in hopes of bringing you and her family closure and bringing her family some answers. There was access to some of the other waterways in this area, but we did not see anybody searching there. We also did not see any boats in the water. So really what that tells us is that this is a very concentrated search. And as we found out today, when the warrants were released, the parents have made confessions to law enforcement. So that does lead us to believe that this very intense search effort is here, and they're here for a reason. Otherwise, they wouldn't have just randomly picked an area. Not to mention.
Okay, I'm just laying out the case. People talk about spiritual warfare, but it's like you just say it because it's trendy, right? I had seen the press conference from the chief, and he was just like, I ain't never, in my 37 years, he ain't never seen, and I was just like, wow. There we go.
This is one of the most difficult, deeply disturbing, and emotionally taxing investigations this office has ever worked. I am truly sickened to share what this investigation has uncovered. Our information reveals the use of corrosive chemicals and other tools that were used to accelerate the destruction of her little body. After this was completed, these two individuals poured what remains were left of Javea into the Cedar Creek Reservoir.
Damn. Right? Okay. Like I said, it sounds nice. Are you gonna give these people? Are you gonna say they were possessed, or you're gonna say that they were just crazy? They did it on purpose, or that was their intent, right? Are you gonna give them the same grace when you holler spiritual warfare, demon possession? Would you constitute this mama being under the possession of demonic forces? Yes or no?